Go! Go, Flat Tracker, go, go, go!
The Kelpie Flat Track Pod, brought to you by Kelpie, affordable race products designed to help you stay on track. Now onto the episode.
So here we go. Welcome back to the Kelpie Flat Track Pod, part 2 of the Dutch Flat Track podcast, chatting to Richard Japin and learning about flat tracking in the Netherlands and everything they've got accessible to them and how it's growing and where it began, some of the races that are involved, tracks, learning a bit about everything, which is some great insight and some more great stories to come. So hope you enjoy part 2 and we'll see you on the other side. It's funny because I actually have Dutch heritage, so I totally relate to that.
I was thinking about it. Your surname, it's really
yeah. My dad's
that's linked to it.
Yeah, my opa has passed away, but I still have an oma who's 90 now, 91 actually, I think, and wow. She still lives in New Zealand. So my dad's side of the family's Dutch. Yeah, but I don't know anything about it. I've never been over or anything like that. But it's definitely part of the
while having a flat track race, you're always welcome.
Oh, believe me, it's definitely on the cards. I was looking at round the world tickets for 2023. So you just don't write me out yet.
Good.
Yeah.
Put you on the reserve list for every race.
Oh, that'd be awesome. And look, I'd probably have about eight travelers with me. I reckon there's every awesome. Time I say something to a racer or a rider friend of mine, they're like, "Yeah, that would be sick. That'd be awesome." So, and or if I do a social media post, a lot of people would be into it. I think, it's just the logistics.
If you could manage a trip with a couple of guys and girls, going to a couple of races in Europe, that would be awesome. You know?
Oh, it'd be fantastic. And the Kiwi guys, they're keen to come across here. There's a few Aussie guys that are keen to go across there. And that's the whole idea of the podcast as well, is to build these bridges and with technology and that as well. Obviously, we can't teleport yet, but I can't wait to the day where we can with a bike in tow. But
I'll strap the bike on my back.
It's just building these relationships are a big part of it too, and it does open up opportunities. And you just don't know what's going to happen. So
it's funny to see because I did a bit of research myself, and as I understand it. In Australia, you have like dirt track and flat track now.
Yes.
And dirt track is you can compare it to the grass track we have in Europe with the knobby tires and all. And I understand that the flat track is more the flat track wheels, the 19-inch and basically as we see it in Europe and in
everywhere else in the world.
Yeah. So you're finally catching up to us.
Finally catching up. Yeah, well, they do say down under, don't they? But that is the heritage of the sport here, as I've banged on about quite a few times on the podcast. Speedway, long track, that's sort of where dirt tracks pretty much come from. I believe there was a stage where it was competing on 19s, but I'm not sure what the tyre was. So I do believe 19s did show up at one stage in Australia, and then they faded out again. And for many years, we've had the Michelin Trials tyres dominated, which is an 18-inch. So, and look, to me, it is similar but different. Like, I would say it's more similar, but then watching other people get on 19s, maybe it is more different than I think, and I just sort of went to it a little bit easier. I'm not sure, it's a bit confusing, but
I have to say that the biggest difference, I do a little bit of enduro or sometimes a motocross practice session or whatever, and the difference for me on knobby tires is the front wheel has grip.
Yeah.
And I'm not used to it. I ride on the road as well. I have a bike to go to work with, so that's all normal. But when you go onto dirt, I'm used to the front wheel sliding underneath me, and I'm just handling that. And on a motocross track or on an enduro, it's like a total mindfuck for me that the front wheel has grip, and then you can really turn and point and shoot. It's like, okay, this is something to get used to. But I think the other way around is also really confusing. That every time you try to turn, the front wheel is gone.
Everything slides with
everything slides, and I think we have a lot of motocross guys trying flat track. Thank God, because it's good for the sport. And some of them are like Menno from Meer, who I mentioned before. He just got it pretty quickly. He had to get used to the bike position. And still he's as I say, then he has his dick on his handlebars, but he's a bit more back to the rear still. I actually have. He was competing in the World Championship in Hungary, and I joined him there. And I was like, man, I think you could be faster if you just scoot back a bit, like 10 centimeters or whatever. He was like, try, but it's difficult. So I put a bit of I don't know, I just took something and a lot of duct tape, and I put a knob on his saddle.
Right.
But he couldn't move forward anymore. Like, okay, just try this, in the end, I don't know if that was the difference, but he made the final for the first time that day. So that was cool.
Yeah, awesome.
But that's something you see in motocross riding, that they have to get used to getting back a bit. But like Menno, he just understood the sliding and the drifting right away. But some guys are coming from motocross or grass track to flat track, and on a track like Rode, which is quite big, 600-meter gravel track, they're really fast because you don't really slide. You just turn in, you pull the throttle, and you just drift all the way around and out of the corner. But then you go to like Vledderveen, 200-meter paperclip, 250-meter paperclip, the track, and then you really have to slide in to slow down. And that's the trick and the confidence to do it with the front wheel sliding out. That's something else. And then some people who are really fast on a big track really start to struggle. That shows that flat track on the 19-inch wheels is kind of specific. And I sometimes see in the World Championship, there was this Argentinian lady competing, and she's pretty fast at the speedway bike, but she really had to get used to flat track. And I think that's also because of the front wheel, moving out.
I think you're right. I mean, the obviously, the overall rolling diameter, it's about 20 mils different between 21 and 19, and so that changes everything for a start. The type of tire as well, not having 12 to 14 mils of knob, you've got 8 mils, and if it fills up, you're sort of on a road cut slick, and it's not nice at all. So there is a lot of factors that come into it. I don't know why, but when I went to 19s, I didn't find it that big a deal. But what I did find a big deal was changing the model of bike. So I was on an 04 back then, and then when I went to the 017, I struggled with that because all the ergonomics were all different. The engine was pointing backwards. I just had to find where my center of gravity and balance points and everything were. So that was a whole other battle. But now it's a little bit more comfortable, and I can sort of go between. Not that I actually ride on 21/19 very much anymore. I usually just keep 19/19, but I use a block pattern tire, which gives you that extra grip. Because that's got 14 mil of tread. So Yeah, a lot
That's the
grippier.
that's the tire you produce yourself with Kelpie.
Yeah, that's the tire I produce myself. So it's somewhere in between Australian dirt track setup and American flat track setup, because you can't quite tip it in the same as you can on 19s, but you can tip it in a lot more than you can on 2118 or 2119. So it's somewhere in the middle. And you do have a lot of front wheel confidence with it, I find. But someone going from a 21, I've had a couple comments, they go, oh, it's so heavy, it feels so heavy compared. Wow, it's twice as wide for a start, so you sort of got to expect that.
Yeah, the 21 is like 1.85 inches, I think.
Yeah.
Front wheel.
Yeah.
That's
yeah, so these are 4, so
more than twice as wide.
So
I can imagine it's a bit heavy.
It is a bit heavier, but for me that's always worked because I sort of like muscling my bike. I've never liked a sort of floaty front end because it scares me. I sort of feel like it's just going to wash out and I'm going to be flat face first on the ground, which I try to do as little as possible at sort of, that 80 to 100k mark. Prefer not to. But the American tires are quite, I've been using them more and they're quite surprising. Like the amount of grip you can get with that little amount of tread is quite amazing, and like you were saying, every surface they do react really different. I mean, we do have that with the Australian setup too, but more so, it seems a lot more so with the American setup. Like we have loose oil tracks here, which is dirt, but they used to roll sump oil in it to stop the dust, and it goes quite they call it bitumen over here, or asphalt, sort of quite hard, and there's a few different types of those too. Like they're all different as well. You think, oh, it's the same, they put oil and dirt, but no, of course it's not the same. It reacts different.
The amount of oil,
it's just all
how
different.
big the
climate of where the track is, I think, plays a big part of it. How long between, because what they do is after a certain amount of time they rip it all up, break it all up, and then do it again, roll it all hard and put new oil in, and that will change it all again. So but
they can still put oil in it. Is that still something that can be done, or is it? No,
I think it's now vegetable oil or stuff that's eco-friendly. That some scientist or someone in the lab's gone, you can do that. But I'm not sure. A couple old Holden sumps might go into it still somewhere. I'm not sure.
No one's looking.
No one's looking, because apparently veggie oil is nowhere near as good. So what you can imagine, it all sort of makes sense. Old engine oil would be nice and tacky and really bind everything together. But on American tires, a lot of fun, but those tracks can tend to become quite one-lined, which is where on the loose tracks, like you're talking about, like the shingle tracks and or gravel tracks, you can sort of tend to have multiple lines on it. So it will be interesting to see with the AFTN over. So the next year, 2023, they've got 6 rounds, but 3 weekends, so 2 rounds each weekend. And one's actually at an oil, or 2 of the rounds are at an oil track, and the other 2, I believe, are both loose tracks. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all goes. And
I have to say, what we tried to do with the Dutch Flat Track is one of our goals going into it was to have a championship of a couple of races on different tracks, not only different venues, but also different sizes, different surface. Because we believe that if you can ride on different tracks, it's more fun.
Yeah.
First of all, and it makes you a better rider.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to the development of the AFTN with the oil tracks on the one side and the gravel tracks on the other side. For us, what you see is that different tracks attract are beneficial to different riders. So sometimes,
well, that's right. Yeah,
you see other riders going to the front, like, "Hey, where did you come from?" And then someone is more of a single track person.
Yeah, or like your paperclip example, someone that's used to a more sort of technical turning track is where someone that's good on, say, like a trotting track, like a mile track, that's used to just having it open all the time, like on a grass track bike, they don't get around the corners if they don't have those wide open, so
actually stay with the rear.
Yeah. So when that rider goes to a paperclip, they're way out of their comfort zone, So I think having all the feedback, and everyone that I have on the podcast says they want a series, So I think, and that's the thing about a series, it gives you opportunities to have good days and bad days. In Australia, I think it will. It will create more opportunities for riders that have to travel all the time for the big meetings. So this way, there's one round that's a bit closer to us. So other people that are like up in Queensland, they're going to be doing the more traveling, which it does play a toll on you, when you're doing all that. I can
imagine that traveling is a huge factor in Australia, because I'm complaining about maybe a 6-hour drive to somewhere in Germany, but I think 6 hours is around the corner in Australia.
It can be. Look, we do have tracks that are closer to us, but a lot of the one-off, like the big one-off events, will be up there, which will be 14 hours away. So when it's not in a series, we can't go up there and practice and all that sort of thing. And, but when there's a series and they start using some tracks that are closer to us, the advantages, they swing around, so we might be able to make, say, if they have a practice day or a practice weekend the weekend before, we might be able to make it as where they won't be able to, because it's 14 hours drive. So, but in round one, which is up their way, it will be the other. It just sort of makes it a bit more fair, if that makes sense.
It's also nice to see, especially when you have a series, that some guys will have to benefit on one track and other guys will have to benefit on the other.
That's right. Yeah.
See how it ends up in the end.
Yeah, and I think we'll just keep it a lot more balanced, and on the other side of that too is with the traveling, in that you get to meet people from all around your country, and the same in the Netherlands, even if it's not as big as distance, or with you guys going to like the DTRA and Germany, those series and those events are all helping us create the industry and make it bigger and link it up and combine it, because they're happening. If they're just one-offs everywhere, they're not quite as tempting, like DTRA is probably not quite as good an example, but hopefully, maybe you can have one day have a round of the DTRA as part of your championship. Or
but they actually did this a couple of years ago in the Hells Race era.
Yeah,
you also had a European Championship, or sort of a Northern European Championship.
Yeah.
So you had one of the DTRA rounds. I think it was Peterborough back then.
Yeah.
The one that also has the MCN festival. You had Hells Race, Wheels and Waves, which is in the south of France. It's like a festival with flat track in it. Pretty cool as well. And I think it was another race. Yeah, of course, in Germany. One of the German races was also part of the European Championship. So you could compete in those 4 races, which is one of the races in each championship. Wheels and Waves is a one-off. Hells Race was a one-off. but Germany had a series, and DTRA also had a series. But you don't have to ride the series to be competitive. You could do the European round, and Michael came in second. I think.
Right.
Second or third, so he was quite good at that
yeah,
one.
Michael, when you're listening to this, Richard's really talking you up. So when I come over,
Wow,
I've got high expectations.
We're actually quite fortunate, because when we have like a race or a practice in the Netherlands, well, obviously Michael was always there, or Menno is there, and they're really fast. So that's our benchmark. And like my buddy Bart Verstijnen, he races a really cool, vintage. It's not really vintage, not prior to 1980, but he has a Honda. You should look him up. He's building another CX 500 replica.
Cool.
Like the first bike Honda attempted a flat track with.
Yeah.
He's making a replica of that, but he actually already made a Honda. He big boarded with 640 cc's, but it actually looks like the 80s, and he's competing the DTX guys on it. Well, if you have people like that on your track normally, then the bar is quite high.
Which is fantastic.
Nothing compared to the American guys or the fast.
Well, you don't know that until they come over.
That's it. No, but it's something you try to be as fast as the other fast guy on your track that day.
Yeah.
And if that's actually a really fast guy, then that's cool.
And that's how your amateur class will, or your intermediate class will grow. Is if these guys keep coming, and you don't have enough pros to to have just the pro class, and they're mixing in with those amateur or intermediate races. Sorry, you watch the skill level go up pretty quick. It's
already happening. As I said, I started in 2017 in the newbie class. If I look, most of the times my father is joining me. He's a car racer, so he's not always able to join. But if he's there, he's filming. I have quite a lot of footage from myself, which is something everyone should get a hold of, because
100%.
If you see yourself riding, that's really study material for yourself.
Good advice.
But the footage from 2017 newbie class compared to newbie class in the Dutch Flat Track Series of 2022, that's a world apart. The newbie class now is so much quicker. So and that's not. It's not that we did anything, but by having series, multiple series around, and people attending to those, you can see the level going up. So the flat track level is really going up. And at first it really was a couple of people pulling the front brake off and just started riding. And now when you can still do that, there's a lot of people just joining us. Just texted 1 or 2 days ago with someone, never met him, but he was like, hey, isn't that questioning all about? And he was like, I have a Honda CB 550, and can I just join, and it's all about fun for me, and just see what happens. You can do that, it's no problem. You can still do it, but you see that because of the series, people want to be fast in the next race. So they come in for the fun, but a lot of these guys, and that's something it says something about the sport of flat track, they get hooked pretty quickly, and then it's like, okay, what do I need to do to get faster? And that's another major thing, I think, in our community. I think it's worldwide, but I can only speak firsthand from the experience I have in Europe. People really try to help each other out, and we try to, as organizers, we try to be part of that as well. Just try to make everyone faster. And it even goes this far as people lending parts to people who are direct competitors.
It definitely seems to be a worldwide flat track thing. It happens here, even an Australian dirt track. it's the same environment. And I don't know if it's because it's
People are
classed
safe.
as such a grassroots sort of sport. I'm not sure, but it's the same. And what you were saying, I didn't want to interrupt you, but before you said, you know, it's not because of us. Well, actually, it is because of you guys that those newbies have gotten faster, because you, without even thinking about it, would have shared everything you've learned with that new guy that's gone, oh, I want to have a go. And, you know, they come along and you go, oh, why don't you try this? Once I changed that, this made the world of difference to me. You know, we're talking half a second. You just shaved half a second off that guy's time and made him more competitive against yourself. But you don't care because you want to see the guy improve and love the sport.
That's true. I helped a couple of riders who are now faster than me.
Yeah, I've done the same. Yeah.
It's like it doesn't make sense when you look at your own riding, but I'm first of all, I'm a rider myself. I always say I'm a very selfish organizer, because I organize races so I can race.
That's the best. Yeah.
But I can't race without competition, so try to help out. And I see a lot of people doing that, and not only people like Marcel, our race director. He's helping everyone who just has a question or doesn't have a question. He tries anyway, because he sees everything and he has an eye for it. He never rode flat track himself, but he knows how to be fast. And Michael is the same. Bart, as mentioned, is the same. So a lot of German guys are the same way as well. They just they try to help other riders getting faster, and that's also why Michael started his Flat Track Academy.
Yeah,
he wants to help people get more comfortable on the bike, maybe not crash as much as some people do, because they don't know how to turn and then they fall off. So it's all about getting the sport bigger, and I hope that if we succeed and the sport gets bigger, that we can keep this vibe that we have in the flat track community. And then it's really good to see what's happening in the UK, where the vibe is really like this. But also in America, although I sometimes see their fights in the pits as well. But
you know,
it's all part of racing.
But even in saying that, they still seem to have that same vibe there, you know, like if you, I imagine you listen to Tank Slapping, and Corey says it all the time, I don't know how these guys can be best friends, he can't do it, but you know, there's the guys in there that can, and they all go and train together and hang out and stuff. And I don't know what it is just a certain type of personality I think it attracts. And I don't think you should fear losing that, because I think it's just the sport attracts that type of person, you know. And
that's true. And
the guys that don't fit in tend to drop away anyway. So you know, because they
that's
can't
true
handle.
As well. We had a couple of guys the past couple of years that tried flat track and weren't used to getting advice from anyone else and not taking the advice and keeping it to itself and to themselves. And they moved along, you know. They're not regulars anymore, and that's something I think what I want to avoid is that it's like we talk about family, you know, it really is. We have this close community, but I want it to be an open family. So people are not like, hey, these guys all know each other and it's like a close-knit family-like community. There's no way coming in anymore. That's what I really try to avoid. People have to, and they still have today, and I want to have this for like another 10, 20 years and longer. People should come to a race feeling comfortable. It's always a bit of exciting. That's pretty positive, but you can be a bit anxious, of course, like, okay, I'm riding and I don't know what to expect. And then it's fine. I think it's really nice. It really helped me that you go to a track and there's people like, hey, you're new. Welcome. Can I help you with something? Do you know your way around, or should I show you? And I try to encourage it by doing it myself, but I see a lot of people doing it as well.
Yeah.
And last year out, I noticed when you organize races, you don't have time for everything anymore. So sometimes it's like, oh, wow, there was this new guy, but I haven't talked to him today. Oh, and none other than hello, how are you, and welcome. I hope he's okay. I hope he had fun. And then I talked to someone, and he was like, yeah, he was pitting next to me, and I helped him around. And yeah, awesome. You know, I don't have to do it.
Fantastic.
Someone else is doing it.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. It's in that way, it's expanding.
Yeah.
And I see some of the guys, and I'm just riding for 5 years now, so I'm basically the same. But some of the guys who I saw starting riding, being the one asking the questions, are now helping others.
Yeah, that's
so
fantastic.
it's like something rolling through.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
Yeah, it's culture, isn't it? It's part of the culture, and I think that's very positive. And like you were saying, you don't want it to be a clique, is where people go, oh, they all know each other, and there's no sort of door for me to go through there. You don't want it closed off. You want that culture of, oh, your bike's not going, why not? Maybe I've got a part that I can help you. You know, you want that, and that. It's what I've always found in the sport. You know, people have lent me spark plugs, clutch baskets, levers, all sorts of things. You know, just to help you get back on track for the next race.
I see whole bikes moving over from one. Michael did this a couple of times. Michael always has his old bike as a spare with him, and I think I saw him doing this like a couple of times. That someone broke down, and I was looking like this one time in Nordhallstadt in Germany. There was this race, and his bike just broke down in the lineup to the start. So there was no time at all, and he couldn't get his bike started anymore. It just died on him, and he couldn't get it started.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere came Michael with his spare bike running, like, dude, this is my bike. I'll take yours. Go. So he went on totally different starting numbers, and he was on a framer. Michael's bike was a DTX, and he came in. Well, that was a heat race, so he had to get used to it. But in the end, he came in third that day. This guy.
Awesome! Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah,
it's so cool, you know. And
that's so cool.
It's just Michael standing like, hey, he doesn't get his bike started. Oh wait, I have another, and he just ran to his bike and just like, here you go.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. Yeah.
It's so fantastic, but it's almost normal. And that's also something we have to appreciate this in each other.
Oh yeah,
so that people still keep doing it.
I don't know if you saw or listened to. I think it was actually the last podcast I did with Josh McLean. He's actually a super motard rider that went to America and raced super motard, and he's going to get into flat track here next year. And when he was in America, he went to watch a flat track race and ended up racing in the 250 class because someone lent him a bike and won it. I mean, how do you just don't hear that in other disciplines, I don't reckon. Well, maybe someone's got a story somewhere that parallels that, but
it would be the exemption and not as common as it is.
No, it's not as common, but you know, he was telling me the guy had and you know, they go overboard in America. They blow our minds at what they do. But this guy had like a big trailer just full of bikes for people to use. You know, he's an old racer that doesn't race anymore. So it's something in the makeup of a flat track racer. I think that's just there. For the long timers, you know, the people that stick with it and want to keep doing it. And you know, I can I'm 46 now, I can slowly see my competitive edge wearing out a little bit, but I never intend on not being there, if that makes sense. My heart's still at the track, and I'm just taking on new roles in different ways to be involved. So I'll always throw a leg over.
Would be riding, of course.
Sorry?
one of which could still be riding.
Yeah, or that's what I was going to say. I'll still throw a leg over, but I just might not be as worried about where I finish competitively as I do now. You know, I still, when I go out, I still want to be up there. But
yeah, that's my problem as well. I'm always like, I'm not competitive, and it doesn't matter.
Oh,
But
it matters.
I went, for example, at my last race this year, I went to Wittstock, which is also in the east of Germany. Kenny Hink, also an Isle of Man competitor, by the way.
Yeah.
So local. We have this partnership with Bertus in the Netherlands, who attended Isle of Man a couple of times. But Kenny Hink is a road racer, did and will do Isle of Man, and he organizes flat track races as well. And he combines it with the speedway and quad racing. So he takes another approach to it. Because I think in that race where I attended, he had like 40, 50 flat trackers, but he added a few other classes, or maybe flat track was added, I don't know, but he added similar types of track racing. So he could provide for a whole day of racing for the audience, but also, well, I think track rent is not as cheap in Germany as it is for us, unfortunately, because they're used to heavy speedway crowds. So if you want to rent a track, it's like how many people are attending, and then it's like, well, it's flat track. I don't think anyone will be watching. It's like, and then you have to like pay us for the amount of entrance fee we would have get when we would have had a speedway race. So that's also that's a downfall for the German organizers. But anyway, Kenny's getting around it. I attended this race and I saw the class I was in, and I saw who was in it, and I was like, well, I'm normally like in or out of the podium, but never on top of the podium.
Yeah.
And now I saw this class and I was like, well, I've beaten him once, I've beaten him once, I've beaten him once. Then I'm not competitive, but I really do want to win this one.
So I'm going to be on the number one step today.
I really wanted to win because I was like, I've beaten all these guys once or more. So I'm able to win. I know this. And then the pressure just builds. So
it's funny, isn't
it? Like I should win, and then you really have to win.
The mental side of racing is quite amazing, isn't it? It's almost a degree in itself, I think. It's quite technical how our brain works and how you could almost psych yourself into not even getting close to the podium on that day. I don't know how you went, but the possibility's there, because you go out in the first heat and those guys are smoking you, and you're going, why? I've beaten them before, you know?
Yeah. And then it gets into your head, and then it could go all the way around.
Yeah.
So it's funny how that works. And I once heard a story of someone, and I've experienced this in the stadium myself as well, that I think it was Michael Dillon on his Flat Track YouTube channel. He explained that he was riding somewhere and he could hear someone right behind him. And he was like, oh, I need to go faster, I need to go faster, I need to go faster. And this guy was really on his tail. He was still on his tail. And he needed to go fast. And he couldn't imagine, with all what he did, that this guy was still on his back. And they waved the flag. He was finished. He looked behind. No one there. It was echo from the stadium following him around. Right. He himself in just a bit of, with just a little bit of lag.
Yeah.
So he was fighting himself, but he was getting faster and faster all the time.
And the guy behind him in seconds going, what's going on with this guy? He's going quicker and quicker.
He's still my ass like crazy. It's like, what is he doing? Calm down, you know.
Fantastic.
That's funny. But I have to say, it's something that stuck in my mind. Like, okay, if you want to, you can be faster than you think, because mental thing. Which I actually used in a couple of races, that if I'm not sure if someone's behind me, because, well, my bike is is certainly not the loudest, but loud enough to not hear who's behind you.
Yeah.
Or it should be someone with a total different sound. My buddy Bart had this two-stroke, this RD 350.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, he sold it. It's a shame, but sometimes you can't hang on to all of them.
Yeah.
But I could hear him coming anytime because it was a two-stroke. It's like, oh, this angry wasp is coming again.
Yeah, no, D3. So he had that done up like a framer. Was it in the original frame?
No, it was in I think it was in a Honda frame. He's a Honda guy, so.
Oh, right.
In a Honda frame and deraked it and all. There's a story about it in one of the Sideburn magazines. So,
okay. Yeah,
I think last year or the year before he was in one of the Sideburn magazines. So it's pretty amazing as well. But unless it's like a totally different sound, like Bart's two-stroke.
Yeah.
I can't hear someone behind me because of my own bike. And I always ride with earplugs, so it dampens all. And so if I don't have the time to look behind me, because the track is a bit technical or whatever, or not technical at all, enough.
Yeah.
So you're always looking forward. Then I just assume that someone's on my tail. So hitting the throttle and just go.
I actually have a no looking back rule. Like, I actually think it's a very bad habit and something that a rider shouldn't get into. I've seen a couple good crashes from people looking back and they shift their body weight or position without realizing and cause their own crash when it was totally unnecessary.
Yeah, that's true. But
Yeah, it worries me,
last year, my buddy Rogier had a race against Lisa, Bart's girlfriend. They were in the same class, and I was in another class that day. So I was the next class, so I was always in the lineup for the races, and I could see the track from where I was lining up, so I could see their races. And Rogier was in front, and never looked back. But Lisa was coming, and then I'm like, he should have taken a look, because then he could see her coming and could adjust his line or whatever to make it difficult to pass. So he never looked back. He had this line where he was going a bit wide on the exit of the corner. Yeah, and you could see Lisa just easing in. And at one point when he was going wide, she was just going beside him, so he couldn't turn in.
Okay.
She had him, and then I was like, I normally never look back, but sometimes you should. Unless you're on the total limit and you're like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I can't ride any different. This is my limit. And if someone's faster, then so be it. That could also be.
So I think that comes down to practicing racecraft. So practicing racecraft, the way I would do it is on either a small, tight track. So very small, tight track where the speeds aren't going to get too high. And you start together and one takes first and one takes second, and you just practice getting used to having someone behind you, and you can actually you can sort of figure out where they are on the track, and you can start working on blocking. And when someone's coming close, you can just about guarantee, if you've taken the same line every time and you're leaving a gap, you can just about guarantee they're going to try for the gap.
Yeah,
so your next lap, you come in and you block the gap. That's the way I do it. So I don't need to look.
It takes a slamming Sammy kind of move to go past.
And of course, this all sounds so easy, which obviously we all racers know it's not. But it's a technique that I highly recommend practicing racecraft.
Well,
and
I think you're right about that one, because racecraft, or actually being used to someone touching you, or like elbow or handlebars close to each other. You see this with racers who are just starting or not being used to it. They get scared. They make big moves away.
Yeah,
which is a hazard in itself. But in the best case scenario, you give up your position.
Yeah.
what I learned in these couple of years is, just to keep your line and don't be scared, because
Exactly.
99 out of 100 times nothing happens. I had
Yeah.
this one moment with Reitze, one of the Dutch riders at Siddeburen. I was catching him and I was faster and I was behind him and I was looking for a gap. And this one point, he was getting into the corner a bit wider than I, and I just scooched underneath him. And I don't know if he saw me coming or wanted to block me or decided, hey, I can hear him really close. Now I need to take a tighter line. But we took the same line. So I actually, I touched him, or he touched me, and we slided for like 1 second. We slided together. And that's not a good place to get scared, because if I would, oh, what's happening? Then we would both been falling off.
Yeah.
So the experience I had really helped in that moment, and afterwards we laughed about it. Like, yeah, you should know better than to stop me, like that.
and that's what happens once you've done a year or 2 years sort of apprenticeship. You start understanding that holding lines is very important, and that you can actually be very close.
Every newbie or rookie, whatever you do, just keep your line. Don't, especially for the newbies, don't look back. There's no mirrors on these things for a reason. Never look back, but no, don't swerve from left to right. I had this guy, he's actually pretty fast. It's a German guy as well. It's another German race I attended this year. And he had a habit of, when he was getting off the throttle after start finish, he would go to the outside. But I had this race where I was passing on the start finish straight, like on his right backhand side, so he couldn't see me, or maybe he didn't hear me.
Yeah.
But what he did, this was a small track, so you're on start finish kind of sideways, and I was right behind him. And what he did on start finish, like, we're here. He pulled up and he left the throttle, and there it was. And he just went to the outside of the corner. And there's air fences and all.
Yeah.
It really took some. I don't want to brag about me, but it took some skill to avoid the air fence and go around it.
Yeah.
And he did it to me once, and I was like, okay, don't worry about it. And this stuff happens, and it went okay. So I didn't mention anything to him. But then we had this other session, and he did it again in the same situation, and I really had to avoid him again. And I was like, dude, a couple of heats ago, you saw me going around you close to the air fence. You kind of can figure out that I was in trouble there. But he was an experienced enduro rider, but it was his first or second flat track race, so he didn't have but I think he never was in that position. So then friendly, but I did address this to him, like, dude, this happened to me twice now. Please hold your line, even if it's start finish, even if we're finished. Just hold your line, turn into the first corner again, because
make sure it's clear.
You're outside, you didn't see me, but there's no room anymore at a certain point. I think an experienced rider would have hit the air fence. I've hit the air fence quite a few times. It's not a pleasant thing to do.
Any sort of impact is not comfortable, and we have we don't have air fences. We have either rubber walls with wooden uprights behind them, which you can guarantee you don't hit the nice flexi bit in between the two wooden pylons. You always hit the frickin' where the wooden beam is.
Of course.
Every time. I don't know why, but every time. Yeah, so you try to keep off the wall. In dirt track, like, we do use the wall a little bit, and you can bounce off it.
Well, actually, Lisa, Bart's girlfriend, she attended the first race at Parchim, German place, and they have a 750-meter long track, so it's like a half mile.
Yeah.
And she had to avoid a crash. Her first race, she had to avoid a crash, and they don't have air fences there, thank God. And she slammed into the wall, and she just pulled the throttle wide open. So she made her. She rides a Yamaha. She made a nice blue mark on the wall. Down at the corner. So that was kind of amazing for someone attending the first race.
Yeah.
But if there would have been an air fence, I've had this, like avoiding a crash or messing up myself. And once you go straight into an air fence, you're really lucky to have it there.
Yeah.
Because that's a nasty crash, and you see this in AFT as well.
Yeah.
If you hit an air fence straight on, you're glad it's an air fence.
Yeah.
But if you're touching it sideways, it's like someone grabbing you off the bike.
Yeah, like, sucking you in.
It's sucking you in, and there's a beautiful picture. We have a lot of photographers in the Netherlands who like racing in general, but flat track in particular. One of them is Mark Meijering. He makes beautiful pictures, not only of bikes, by the way, but also of women. So he's on Insta for all the listeners.
Okay.
Mark Meijering. And he makes beautiful pictures. And there's one picture of me mid-air, bike here, Richard over there. Yeah, that was a moment where the air fans got me, and the bike turned around, and I'm flipped in the air.
So sorry, where do we find his pictures? On the Dutch Flat Track page, or has he got his own page?
Page you can find it, and otherwise it's Mark Meijering. Spelling wise, it's a bit different, I guess. But it's just Mark.
If people
Dutch Flat Track, you'll see his whenever we get pictures from him or other photographers, we tag them. So just scroll down our timeline, you'll find
Dutch Flat Track.
And the SPW-media guy, Sietse, is one of our photographers as well. And then you have Jesper Veldhuizen. He actually does the timing for a lot of speedway and long track championship races. His father races in one of our classes, so
awesome.
When he's at our races, and he always brings his camera, so that also gives us a nice pair of pictures.
Yeah, oh, fantastic! Sounds like you've got the potential for real growth there. Like you've got a lot of support and people that are interested in the sport. What's the biggest growing bike that you see? Like is DTX? So DTX is a motocross that's set up for flat track. Are they growing a bit more? Is it more? You were mentioning the vintage and Thunder bikes are pretty big. When your newbies come in, are they tending to be more on a DTX, or are they more custom builds?
At the moment, it's more custom builds.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's like people looking at flat track and like thinking like, hey, I've got something in my shed. I think I can convert it to flat track, or at least take the front brake off. So that's how people roll into it now. What our challenge is for the next couple of years is to we're all quite old as flat track racers. We're all like mid-20s and up.
Yeah.
So what the challenge is to get the youth in. We have like 2 or 3 youth riders. They always combine with other classes, most of the time newbie because of the speed.
Yeah.
We will always put them on the podium, but sometimes it's just one guy or one boy. And we would love to see that expand to more. We hope that the Sunday Cup is one of the entry-level positions, because it's a cheap bike, or relatively cheap bike, which is a flat bike in itself. So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to know anything. We have Bertus on site all the time, so he can help out when you have a technical question or need help in what other way. And that would be awesome. But I think when people, younger people start attending our races, the easiest way is to convert your own DTX or your own motocross bike into a DTX, or buy a motocross bike. And I have to say, I really love my framer. I love the C-framers. I think that's the purest way of flat track, and thank God we have a lot of them. So it's really cool to see. But if you go down always stuff breaks. You can't go down, even a normal low sider or whatever, something will break. Even if you don't fall, I think last season I never went there. Yeah, I went down once in Siddeburen in the TT track, and I got tangled in someone.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a big one. But nevertheless, I didn't really fall down last year, and still things started disappearing off my bike, because of the vibrations and my exhaust pipe. I had to fix my exhaust pipe like twice, and last time out, the last race I did, this Bitstock race I mentioned earlier, it used to be like a 700, 800 meters track, and they made it smaller in the 70s or whatever.
Yeah.
But the radius of the corners is still the same, so it's like it's a really wide oval, so it's almost full throttle all the time.
Oh, cool.
And then things really start falling off your frame. That wasn't really good for the. It was good that it was the last race of the year. Let's put it that way. Because I was losing bits and bobs everywhere, and that's the downfall of a framer. It's like my framer is as old as I am, so it's almost 40 years old. So
yeah,
of course it's not like like modern bikes. And the DTX, if you go down, it actually is made to go down. You're
pretty
in
much.
a motocross situation.
Yeah.
No one assumes that a motocrosser never falls down. Even Jeffrey Herlings falls down all the time. So it's normal for a DTX bike to fall down. So it's all more, it's more compact. It's more, nothing sticking out. Yeah. So I think for whether or not you're a younger rider, or if you're starting flat track and you want to have a go and don't have to repair your bike all the time, don't have to struggle to find parts, don't want to have things too expensive, just buy a Japanese motocross bike and convert it. Because the Japanese manufacturers, you can find the parts all over the place, and they're not too expensive. Yeah, and it's basically take the front brake off, change the suspension, which even in the Netherlands or more places, people know how to do that in a proper way, and get the right set of wheels. And even if you're not buying proper flat track wheels, you can buy 19-inch for a DTX for motocross. Yeah. So you just slap on a flat track tire. Yeah. And you're done. So it's quite easy to do to start flat tracking on a DTX bike. It's not the sexiest way to do it, but hey, you'll find out later.
Yeah, that's it. It's actually I was just thinking it's quite interesting because the juniors actually don't get talked about very much at all, especially, and I'm a little bit responsible for that too, because most of the guys I talk to are senior riders, or they have just gone from junior to senior and just done their first year in senior. So in the Netherlands, motocross is probably going to be your best sort of target audience to get riders from. Would that be right? Or where do you think they might come from?
Yeah, I think motocross, the grass track community is also quite big. Grass track in the north.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
could be an audience as well. But I think what we see now is when people become of age, are getting a bit older, like 35, 40, they might have fallen off a motocross bike more than they want to. And we see a couple of guys coming in like, I'll try flat track. I think it's kind of cool. I don't have to jump, or not to jump as high. Yeah. So the chances of me falling down and breaking stuff on my body is smaller. Yeah. The downside in that perspective is that we're going way faster. So
yeah, well, the initial,
there's a little bit of danger coming back to it, but
yeah, it's funny, isn't it? The initial thought system, I think you covered it there, is what everyone thinks. Oh, it's safer. But once you start getting that little competitive edge coming in, and
we went to have a practice in a German track a year ago, I think. And it's a track. It's 520 meters long. It's on a hill, so one straight is 1.5 meters higher than the other.
Yeah,
okay. Really funny, because one corner you can just hammer it in, and you will never go to the outside. And the other is, well, you have to be careful. But there's a motocross track on the infield. And what these lunatics did, they just filled the motocross track and then just let us on the oval. So we were riding on the oval, and then it's like, is someone passing me? Oh no, that's the motocross track.
Oh yeah, crazy.
Yeah, there was. I don't know if that was the safest option, but it was kind of fun. And there was this boy, I think he was 13 or 14 years old, German guy. He walked around our bikes afterwards, and he looked at it, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to have a go sometime?" You know, it's like, yeah, you're a motocross. He had his motocross gear on, so he was obviously a motocrosser.
Yeah.
You want to have a go at a flat track? And he said, in German, of course, but I'll translate, like, no. This is way too dangerous for me. I was like, you're a motocrosser. You're jumping into the air, just riding circles. No, way too fast. So it's like he recognized the other part of it.
Yeah, that's unusual, isn't it? You'd think he'd be going, oh yeah, I can do this, and jumping on.
Yeah, he had respect for what he saw, so that's good. I think it was also because I was hanging up with Michael and Bart. They're really fast, so if you see those guys going, you're like,
yeah.
I don't know if I should do this, but yeah, I think the DTX is the best way in for most riders, and I hope the youth will come up. Well, hopefully supported by our Sunday Cup.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be.
And then a nice thing about the Sunday Cup, if you're used to a framer kind of bike with a low headstock and all, you most likely will transition into a framer.
Yeah.
When you up the ranks and go looking for a bigger bike, you will. Well, I see that happening a couple of times now.
Yeah.
That's people coming from a Sunday, buying a framer or something else that they convert into a flat tracker, which looks like a frame. Which is kind of cool because, as I said, I think that's the most sexy way to do flat track. It just looks cool.
Yeah, they do. I have a thing for framers. I ride predominantly a DTX, but that's mainly because that's the way we seem to have gone here. And I don't really care which way we go as long as we go 19s. You know? So I'm supportive of that. And it makes sense. I mean, it's very easy to just put a set of wheels on. You don't even, most of us for dirt track have already lowered the suspension, 20, 30 mils. You can drop it another 20, 30 if you want, but it's not really that necessary. But yeah, just putting the wheels on. We use 2 brakes over here. So nothing really changes that much. Some people use downpipes, but that's more, look, it's debatable. You might get an extra horsepower too, but to me, it's more the aesthetics thing. That's why people like it. It ties it into the flat track thing, especially the American side of the sport. But yeah, I've actually got a 1976 XT 500 that I'd like to turn into a framer, and I've got an RT 360 2-banger that's got an underslung pipe, which needs a full rebuild. But yeah, I want that to be a framer as well. But if we have a class that supports those a bit more, I'll be more likely to work a bit harder to get them up and running. But
basically how we do it as well. Like we have a hooligan class, but no one's attending yet. But we still put it out there like there's a hooligan class for anyone who wants to ride a hooligan. We'll make a spot in our schedule. It's maybe you're the only hooligan rider. We'll put you into Thunderbike or whatever is according to your speed.
Yeah.
just to make sure that no one thinks like, oh, there's not a class available for my kind of bike.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
there is a class, but yeah, there's not too many people trying it yet. It's the same with the youth class. We just, in order to make it bigger, we now decided to mention it in our regulations pack separately. Normally, it's like we pick out the youth riders and we put them on podium for a separate championship, but they ride at mostly newbie. But now we decided in our regulations to put youth class as a separate class in it. Maybe nothing happens in reality, but people looking into Dutch Flat Track, going to a website, seeing the regulations and checking out like, hey, what class can I enter in? Well, they can see like, hey, there's a class for me, or a class that I could fit in.
Yeah.
And that hopefully lowers the bar to enter as well.
So I noticed for 2023, you've got 4 rounds next year. Is that right?
Yeah. We try to. We're just the two of us. We have a lot of support, as you noticed. But for Michael and myself, 4 races is plenty of work.
Yeah.
And depending on which skill you are, as I said, we have this Dutch habit of having everything around the corner. So for us, 3 hours riding or driving to the races is not a problem.
Yeah.
For other people, it is. But for most flat trackers, for the core of the flat trackers, it's okay. And if we do 4 races, and they'll have like 4 or 6 races in Germany, we'll have 4 or 5 races in the UK, and in France there's a championship. In Czech Republic is a championship. In Austria they have races. Italy, Spain, Portugal even organized a race last year. If you look at that,
yeah,
I want to. As I said, I'm a rider first of all. I want to go to other races, which I don't organize myself. That's kind of easy going for me then.
Yeah.
But I really encourage other people to do so as well. So we try to, with 4 races, as I said, I did 11 races last year, of which 4 are my own. But I hope many riders will follow that pattern. Like, okay,
yeah, that's fantastic. And then you're all itching, scratching each other's backs that way. If Germany's coming to you and you're going to them, and at France, and who else did you say? Spain, Portugal. Then
we try to do that, and like Spain and Portugal, that's also like 14 hours riding or driving for us.
Yeah.
But for a one-off, and if it's a weekend and you make like a little holiday out of it, then you can do it.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you do it, you meet people there and they go, well, Richard did it. Richard and Michael did it. Let's go and see them,
We should return the favor by joining their race.
Yeah. And then the numbers, at certain events during the year increase, and then other people see that and go, oh, we want to be part of it too. And then your normal numbers start increasing. It's just amazing the effect that it has when you make those friendships and people go, oh, really? They come from there, and oh, it must be a good place to be. And how it snowballs. It's great.
Yeah. It's something that works. I think it's fun. I like to meet new people, to explore new places. In general, but also in flat track.
Yeah.
And it's funny to see that we're talking for quite a bit now, and it's we don't know each other at forehand, but we kind of do. And that's something I see a lot in flat track. You speak the same language. It's like, hey, you're also a racer in a way that I am a racer, and I have to say, it made quite an impression on me attending the first Hells race I did with 170 riders from, I think, 6 or 7 countries. Then you're like, whoa, this is something,
Yeah.
And well, we try to do that ourselves as well. And being one of those riders who's idiot enough to go all the way to to England or the south of Europe just to go for well, what is actually maybe if you're lucky, an hour on the track.
Yeah.
Because our races are quite short, so in that perspective, it's quite idiotic. But yeah.
Yeah, we were actually having that discussion the other day. One of my development riders' dads and I was talking, and we were talking about that the other day. That do we even weigh that up? Sometimes I don't think we do. Travel 10 hours or 12 hours for 35 minutes on the track or something.
I choose not to think about
it. Yeah, good decision. But
it's so much fun, I think in 6 laps on an oval, I have more fun than in the rest of the week. It's like it's such a good feeling, and I can really encourage anyone who's listening or watching to this and thinking like those guys are nuts. Just try it yourself once, and you don't have to be a motorcycle rider even. Just go to one of the tryouts we have in Lelystad or the Flat Track Academy Michael's putting up. Just go there and spin a few laps. I guess you'll like it, and especially when you already have some motorcycle experience, the feeling of sliding into a corner and drifting out of it, and when you can put it all into one movement, it's
when you get it right, it's something else, isn't it? Once you actually when you're getting it right, it's just there's no other feeling. I don't even try to explain.
I played soccer for quite a few years until I was 17 or something. I didn't score that many goals, but when you hit the ball in a way, then you're like, this is going to be one of the goals. And then it is. And that's the same with flat track. You feel like, this is the one. This is the one. And then you really, I learned that from Johnny Lewis, who actually went to the Netherlands and UK a couple of years back. And I went to one of his training schools. And he said, like, try to imagine the perfect lap. Even if it's just the one corner you did good, try to imagine that being a lap all the time in your head, because you'll mentally prepare yourself to ride that way.
Right.
And then it's something like, okay, I think that works for me. And I'm lucky. My last race from last year I was riding, I think, the best race of the year.
Yeah.
So I can carry that feeling, that mental picture all winter long.
Yeah, right.
And I'm really trying to do that. So that first practice for next season, I'm still in that mental state.
Zone. Yeah, that sounds awesome. And just before we wrap it up, is there prize money? Is there trophies? What are the rewards for a rider that does a season of Dutch flat track?
I'm pretty amazed by the prize money you guys have in Australia.
Well, that's new to us, so I hope that keeps going.
We don't have that. We don't have that in the Netherlands, but in the FIM World Championship, you have prize money.
Yeah,
not as much. not $8,000, but in Germany they have some prize money. We're not big enough, and it's funny. In grass track, long track, even speedway, there has been this period that riders are used to being paid to come ride. And especially in Germany, you had Egon Müller, world-renowned speedway rider. He introduced this way of thinking, like, hey guys, I'm going to race. There's 20,000 people watching. They're paying 10 Deutschmark back then to see me. Maybe it's fair if I get a percentage of it because I'm the show. And Kenny Hink, which I mentioned earlier, one of the German organizers, he said, well, Egon kind of ruined it for us because the races are getting used, especially in Germany, the speedway races, we're used to getting paid to race. And now there's no one watching anymore. So organizers are not willing to pay anymore because they'll have to cover their costs if they're lucky with the 100 attendees in the audience. So it's become more of a hobby.
Yeah.
And for me personally, but I think for a lot of riders here, it's normal to pay an entrance fee to cover the cost of the organization. We're just a two-guy show. This is a hobby for us as well. So all the time we invest in it is just our own time. There's no money in it. So we have a separate organization. We have a separate bank account. There's no money taken out of it. So this is not a job for us. And we devote our time to it. That's our the reward for us is the amazing amount of feedback we have, the positive feedback from our riders and other people around us, and the help we get from our volunteers. But yeah, it's thankfully quite normal now in the Netherlands and in surrounding countries to pay an entrance fee, which is, I think it's quite low. Not that I want it to be higher, but we struggle sometimes with motocross, where you have motocross is quite big here. So if they have a race, it's like 200 riders. It's not that amazing or whatever. So it could be 300 as well. And then you pay like 15 euros, maybe 20. For an entrance fee. For us, we have, well, our first race was the biggest, 70 riders, and it was like 60 and 55 in the other races, something like that. So our entrance fee is for a whole weekend of racing around 80 euros, 80 or 90 euros, depending on variables like track rent and other things. And I think that's not a lot of money when you compare it to the cost you have on your bike, the fuel you put in your bike or in your car getting there and all. You spend like a couple of €100 a weekend. So 80 euros for an entrance fee is not a big part of that. In my opinion. But some people used to the motocross fees are like, whoa, this is quite expensive, because if I do this 4 times a year, I paid, maybe 200 to 400 euros. Just an entrance fee. And then it's like, I compare it to my dad and my brother, who are car racers. They pay 400 euros for an afternoon of riding on the circuit of Zandvoort. An afternoon. And they go through a set of tires, brakes, and all. So it's like 1,000 euros for 1 day or 1 afternoon of riding. You can do a whole season and more for that money.
That's right.
So, because you don't wear out, at least on the gravel tracks we ride in normally, you don't wear out your tires as much. So I can do, I think, a whole season or maybe a bit more on 1 set of tires. Well, the rear tire needs changing maybe a bit. I'm getting faster still, so
you just flip it and
that's what I do as well. Just turn it around and then you can go for a couple of races, but then eventually it's gone. It's totally different to car racing or even road racing. I know a couple of people like Marcel, our race director, he spent years and years of road racing on circuits like Zandvoort, but also in most in Czech Republic and Germany, and he went all over Europe. He really needed sponsors to make it happen for him.
For sure.
Track is a sport you can do without sponsors, but it's not as cheap as motocross in the Netherlands, for example, or grass track, where it's also like 15 euros to participate in a race.
Well, similar situation. Similar situation to here. Like, so not every event pays prize money over here, and that's fine. Club meetings and that, I wouldn't expect to go there and be paid to race or even compete for prize money. But sort of any state or national event, I would expect some money to be on the line, but it's not necessarily the done thing, but most of the time there'll be, $300 to the winner or of the 450
that's the amount that's been being paid in Germany last 2 years.
Yeah. So around that sort of thing, and I think it's a good
gas money.
nice
It's like
incentive.
it's nice to have, but it won't cover all the costs. But
No. But in some ways, it's not. I don't think that it's 100% necessary, but I think it shows a bit of respect back to the riders, and making the effort to travel and all that sort of hoover malarkey. But with the AFTN, what they've done is just something totally left to center, very professional. Is sort of lifted it up another level, and I hope it does continue, because I would like people to have options. Life is all about choices, and to have choices to say, okay, we're going to see if we can be the best rider in Australia in flat track, and there's some decent money to be won as well. So
and as we talked about, the traveling range for Australian riders is quite big. So not that it's a given that you will win the prize money, but if that's carrot hanging in front of you, you're like, okay, I'm willing to spend thousands of dollars and hours and hours of your time,
and also just having that professional presentation is a big attraction to me. Like, whether I could get close to the prize money or not, I don't really care. But being in that environment really turns my light switch on. I just think
we try to do that in other perspectives as well. We for our first race, Michael and I said to each other, we have to make sure it's a good show for the people who are attending, whether or not riding.
Yeah.
But also we knew we would have seats filming, and Mark and others shooting pictures. And we really wanted to have an event that people would look back on, who were, if they weren't attending, like, oh man, next time I have to be there. It looks so cool.
Yeah.
And that's something we try to achieve every time. So that part of professionalism and the cool factor that flat track has anyway.
Yeah.
If you see a picture of a motorcycle going sideways, it always looks cool. In my opinion. That's something we really look into. Like, okay, we need to make the appearance of the sport more than just a set of hillbillies on weird looking bikes. It's if we want that, we'll just stop at the newbie class, because then you just shove in a bunch of weird motorcycles without front brake, and that's it. Now we want to have all of that. It's not a bad thing to have entry level competition.
No.
Also want the other side of it, like the pros who are mostly on a decent bike, looking quite professional, and not only by the way they're riding.
And that's exactly what I'm getting at. I think there's an important balance there, that you do have to be able to cater to both. For and for you guys, maybe that will get juniors crossing over from those other disciplines if they go, by the time I'm 20, I could be number one in the Netherlands, and taking the trophies, the prize money, or whatever, whatever that attraction is. And then on the other side as well, like you're saying, let's not forget the spectators that aren't racers, or aren't wanting to go and sit on a seat and effectively risk their being, and but they love watching people do it. So you have to, you don't want it to. And we sort of spoke a little bit about this, about the AFTN, you don't want the tracks all to be the same, where it might just end up being a one-line track and people following each other around, because then you'll lose the spectators, and spectators are important because, they buy merchandise, they come up and they help They help promoters and event organizers get sponsorship, because you can then say, we have 500 people turn up to watch these guys race. There's 500 people that may not have seen your product before, so
yeah. Well, that's something we really want to go to, like getting it bigger, more audience, more riders, and then being more attractive for potential sponsors as well.
Yeah. And the fact that, like you're saying, that you're doing it as a hobby, and you are 100% understand what you're saying, but you're sort of running a business too.
Of course it is.
It's
you have to run it like a business, but it's a hobby in a way that we're as a person, we're not part of the business.
Yeah,
that's the difference. So if we were able to attract a sponsor and they pay us money, we'll put it into transponders, for example. Like, hey, now we can use transponders, and then we don't have to do the heat races by rolling the dice, but we can have qualifications. Like something like that. That's something we'll do, or put up prize money, because we now have a sponsor that pays us a certain amount, and that's the way we're thinking. But also, it's kind of a business, and in that way, the races, we had a lot of spectators last year, were financially the best races for us, which is also something to look at when you organize races in the future. Like, our new calendar for 2023 is already out, and for example, Siddeburen is on it. Was it the best track, apart from being a TT, which is really cool? It wasn't the most smooth track, so some riders didn't really like the normal oval shape, because it was too rough, too bumpy. But we are able there to do a TT. We had good spectators. Everything we wanted gets organized by the local club. So it was all in all quite a success. But it wasn't the best racing surface to be on. Now, we tried to improve the racing surface for this year, of course, or for next year. Don't know if that will work out, but it's on the calendar anyway, because all in all, it's a big. It has been a big success, and we hope we can, proceed from that for next year.
Keep growing it. And so on that note, anyone listening to this podcast, we've got I've lost count of countries now, but it's quite a few. Indonesia, Spain, Germany. We've got listeners in as well now, and hopefully a few more from the Netherlands and from the States. Anyone that can help Richard and Michael, please reach out to Dutch Flat Track in whichever way that maybe it is your first sponsorship deal that they could offer. Please reach out, because we can see, or I can see because you're on camera, but we can hear your passion, and it's because of guys like you that have taken time out of your life to dedicate it to making the races happen. Even if it is selfishly, you do deserve reward, because I've been around lots of people that organize races and stuff, and I help out. I never get too involved because I know how much it really takes. And I'm selfish too. I like racing. So please jump on board, reach out to them on the Dutch Track Flat Track Facebook page. Pretty easy to find. And I think that's how I contact Tonk. Actually, no, you've got a website, haven't you? I think I went to your webpage from there. Is that www.dutchflattrack.com? Is that right?
Yeah. That's true. Already an international approach to the
Europe. So reach out to the guys and say, hey, this is, even if it's, I don't know, a couple €100 to help you towards your transponders or whatever, reach out to them. I'm sure they'll be happy to work with you and work something out so that everyone's happy. And I'd really love to hear that someone has reached out to you guys, because it sounds like you're pretty determined to keep it growing and make it bigger. And I'm sort of jealous, to be honest, that you've got all those countries so close by and accessible that all have similar little series going. Some of them sound bigger, some of them sound like they're probably about on par with what you guys are doing. And but when you combine them all together, like you're saying, you've got a big flat track scene happening there.
If you take the racing season, for us it's from, well, depending on the weather, but normally from April till October.
Yeah.
I think sort of every weekend you can go flat tracking somewhere, whether it be a race or a practice. So yeah, that's quite amazing. And it wasn't that way like 3 or 4 years ago, but now it is. So that's really
fantastic. Yeah, well, keep it up. That's great work. And hopefully we can come across and bring some Aussies and show you guys how much slower we are.
Well, you're more than welcome to show us that. Even if you're faster, you're still welcome to join. Darcy, really big thanks for reaching out to us. Thank you for the nice words, and it's so cool to be on your podcast. I listened to a few episodes. I think I have some homework to do as well. But when this airs, we will certainly try to promote it as much as possible. So
thank you very much. Yeah, that's
the podcast. See that the passion is as big on the other side of the globe as here. Promote Kelpie products as well. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be part of this.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I think we've almost been going 3 hours, would you believe it? I was just looking at the time.
It's been a while. It didn't feel that way, so that's good.
No, that's awesome. But I think
you might want to divide
probably
this one
the longest
into a few episodes.
We might need to do that. Yeah, that my audience isn't used to that. They'll be going, what's going on?
One of those 14-hour trips to one of the races, you can listen to this podcast because
and do you know that that's what a lot of dudes do? You know, the first one that we ever did, we got to the Australian titles and I had people coming up going, oh, really love the podcast we're listening to on the way to the racing. So, and that seems to be a trend that just keeps rolling on, is when people go to the races, they might not listen to it during the week or whatever, but when they go to races, they put it on and get themselves in the mood. So I really appreciate that. Really love that people are engaging and listening to the dribble that comes out of my mouth and and just and soaking up some of the passion. I really do love the sport. It's sort of a funny way that I fell into it, but I'm one of those other people that watched On Any Sunday, and I don't know what it was. I was just hooked straight away. I just want to get on a bike that looks like it shouldn't be ridden like that and try to ride it like that. And and the rest is history. And I never ever thought that I'd do a podcast, but no one was doing one and over here. And I really loved Off the Groove with Scotty Dubler and Tank Slapping. I still love Tank Slapping. And they're always just so pretty much focused on America. And I just sort of thought, I can see through the internet that's happening everywhere else as well. And I want other people to know that and to link up and see actually how big the sport really is, even though it's hundreds of little pockets. When you combine them all, was like you're saying, we've never met, but we've talked for a few hours, couple hours easily, like we've known each other for a long time.
We could continue.
We could, and we may have to, maybe in 2023, we'll catch up at the end and get the Dutch flat track recap, and hopefully Michael can join us, and it might be a 5.5-hour podcast. I've got a feeling he's...
So let's make that an arrangement. Let's...
That'd be great. Yeah,
I would be lucky and happy to come back in the podcast, and especially to keep you all informed about what's happening in the Netherlands and in Europe.
I'm pretty sure listeners would love to hear. And I want to do a couple catch-ups with the guys in New Zealand as well, both islands. They've had a few events since the last time I chatted to them, and they look like they're growing steadily as well. And obviously by that time, the AFTN will be running one as well, so we'll be able to tell you what a full season's like, and hopefully, I am intending to be at all of them, so I should be able to give you an actual account of what it was like. And I think it's just a cool network to have, and like I was saying before, make sure if you are in the area and you've stumbled across us somehow, that you reach out to people in the area and have a good search on the internet, and I'm pretty sure you'll find someone pretty much anywhere in the world now. You might even be lucky and find the first someone skidding around in their backyard or something and want someone to come and join them, and you can start something like Richard and Michael have carried on the Dutch flat track. And hats off to you, because it's, as I said before, it's not just nice words. I really am impressed with what you guys do, because it's hard work, and the things with the lengths we go to do to get rides ourselves and people to race with. I think you're a testament to it. So job well done. Job well done. Good work, guys. So I'm going to stop the recording here. So there we go, part 2 of the Dutch flat track done and dusted. Great conversations with Richard there. Really enjoyed talking to him. Could have just kept going and going, really, but we both had stuff we had to be doing, so had to end it somewhere. But I really hope I can get over there at some stage and meet them all and cut some laps. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. I think we've all got a great insight to the scene in the Netherlands and surrounding countries, and I mean, wouldn't it be an awesome trip for us outsiders to go over there? And if you're tuning in and you're not racing yet, get involved, or even if you, for whatever reason, you can't ride a bike anymore, or you just don't want to race a bike, which there's people out there that are like that but still love the bikes, and whether you get involved in bike building or photography or video, I'm sure they'd appreciate a hand. It could be scrutineering, could just be anything. I'm sure if you put your hand up, you'll be welcomed with open arms, and just be involved in a great community. And I think it's really evident, from this conversation, that the big part of the sport is about the community, the friends you make, and the lifestyle choice, and it's awesome fun. That's what living's about. So I'm not sure what the next pod's going to be, but it shouldn't be too far away. We'll get that cranking, and until next time, guys, keep it sideways. I did. My daughter keeps telling me you forget to mention where people can follow us. So obviously, Kelpie on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and also make sure you check out the Dutch flat track scene on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook as well. Dutch flat track. It's under, pretty easy to find, big yellow emblem from part 1. You'll see their logo there on my Insta. So keep an eye out for that. But it is a circle. I cropped it. So make sure you give them a like and a follow, and keep an eye on what they're up to. I will have a crack at finding that YouTube video of the TT track and post that to the Kelpie Facebook page too. So keep an eye out. Hopefully I'll get that done in a minute. And keep it sideways, guys. Go flat tracker. Go! Go flat tracker, go, go, go!